Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The following hour of programming has been field tested on humans for over a decade in order to determine what, if any, effect direct exposure to scientific news and performative thinking could have on average human intellect. Unfortunately, the results have been inconclusive due to an unforeseen hiccup in the test subject parameters. It seems that while the informal study was designed for humans of average intellect, 100% of the volunteer test subjects, as the data has confirmed, are above average intellect. This has led the study authors to retool and repurpose their original study based on the available data. While the original study, Effects of Sexy Science News on the Ignorant Masses, has been scrapped, the new study, Effects of Sciencey Goodness on Smart, Sexy People, is in full swing. While there are many side effects to participation in this study, they vary in manifestation and intensity depending on the subject's core affect, or how you are in the world determines how it will affect you much more than how the world affects who you are. There was one result in this study that did seem to cut across all psychological states, philosophical modes, and physiological boundaries, as many participants reported symptoms of addiction to This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good Thursday, Kirsten.
Happy Canada Day, Justin.
Is it really?
It's Canada Day. Oh,
That's
Canada.
Cute. That's so cute.
Yeah, to our
What a day. We have a country.
seceding neighbors to the north. Congratulations. It's wonderful to have a day to celebrate and think about your country. So happy Canada Day. We do love our Canadian friends. We do.
So for those of you listening just to the audio feed, we have added cameras and are doing this show live now on the TWiT Network online.
Yes.
And my connection seems it's either I have super fast superhuman speed that when I move it's just a blur, or my connection's kind of weak tonight. My camera, I'm looking at me and I look like I'm lip syncing myself.
I guess don't look at yourself too much.
Why not?
Wow.
You are a very sexy man. I would like to take you home. Oh, wait. I already have.
Oh, dear. We have a great show tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and I hope that you'll be enjoying all the stories that we brought. I brought stories about a speed limit that might make us smarter. Life gets even older, and what do you do when 13-year-olds really do climb the walls? Justin?
I have got some weird science. And I've got a the timeless question. Can money buy you happiness? Gallup went out and took a poll and asked people.
Well, hopefully we'll find out that
that question has been posed by a university somewhere. Is saying sustainability, virtuous or vulgar?
Ooh.
So it's actually an interesting sort of crossroads in the attempt to be a more sustainable, greener society. And it's a question that really needs to be answered as we go forward. Otherwise, it will be quite easy to divide and conquer any interests in doing so.
Interesting. So I'm interested in your stories.
Are you intrigued?
I am intrigued. You have piqued my interest. But in the meantime, let's get on to nature's speed limit. It turns out that a study sent to us by grad student Heather Moore, and she's actually one of the lead researchers on this study that came out of Simon Fraser University. She did this study with her professor Max Donnellan and sent the story to us just yesterday when the press release came out. And she was like, here's a story for you. I did this. It's kind of cool. I did this aspect of science. So I'm glad she's proud of her research. And as a neurophysiologist, this story kind of excites me. So the idea here is, how fast can nerves transmit information? Is the speed of transmission of an electrical impulse down a nerve's axon the same for little tiny animals as for big animals? And it turns out that nerves can conduct information at basically the same size, and it's been pretty known. It's been known for a while.
At the same speed.
At the same speed, right? Sorry, at the same speed, and it's been known for a while that, and this is something that I taught to physiology students in classes at UC Davis, that it has to do with a trade-off between the diameter of the axon, like how big the axon is, and how long it is. So what Heather Moore says, she says, as a body size increases, animals are increasingly forced to choose between having bigger axons and thus the ability to conduct information quickly, and having more axons and thus the ability to precisely sense and respond to the environment. To illustrate this, consider a shrew and an elephant, which is what they did for their experiment. They looked at a shrew, and they looked at shrews and looked at elephants. In order to have the same nerve speed and precision as the shrew, the elephant would need to have a sciatic nerve with the impossible diameter of 30 meters. But you can't do that. We found that one way elephants reduce the size of their nerves is by having smaller axons than we would expect, and therefore conducting information more slowly. In fact, the nerves of all the animals we measured, ranging in size from shrews to elephants, conduct information at almost the same speed. Because the nerve signals have much further to go in an elephant than a shrew, this means that elephants have a much longer delay before they can sense or respond to their environment. And there's an interesting video. Hey, Justin, can you move the microphone away from your mouth or your nose? You're breathing, and it's like... You're Darth Vadering us.
It might not be me. It might not be my breathing. It could be the that's coming from
upstairs. No, it's you.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stop with the obscene phone caller.
Good.
Like,
so we have a video actually that was part of the press materials that shows what they did with the elephants when they were studying the elephants to see how fast the nerves were transmitting information. So if we can run the video, this is scaling of sensory motor control. So these are the elephant experiments. And the first thing they did was verify that they could actually record muscle activity while the elephant was walking. And so they have an elephant walking with the trainer and the researcher walking next to the elephant's hind leg while they have these electrodes attached to the outside of it. Then what they did is they used a reflex hammer, a little bonk hammer, to tap the tendon in the back of the ankle, the heel of the elephant, to then be able to have to be able to measure the reflexive time of nerve transmission. Because if you do a similar thing, like if you tap your hand on the front of your knee while your leg is hanging over your other leg, that's a reflex, and you stimulate a nerve that sends a signal to your spinal column that then sends another signal back to your leg to contract a muscle and make your leg go. So they basically did these experiments on elephants, and I'm surprised they didn't have a video of what they did with the shrews, because I'm just imagining a researcher chasing after a little shrew with a reflex hammer. I'm gonna attack your heel. I don't know what they did there. So what they ended up figuring out is that let's see. So why is a limit to nerve speed significant? Heather says that the nerves of large animals have to conduct information over a much longer distance. And so one would expect that they would conduct the information faster to compensate, right? So that in the end, shrews and elephants would be able to do things equally fast because elephants are moving information faster to get to the end of their leg at the same amount of time. But in the nerves of all animals, regardless of size, they conduct impulses at the same speed. And so this means that it takes much longer for information to be conducted the same relative distance, such as from the foot to the spinal cord in large animals. Delays that increase with animal size help explain why the movements of large animals like elephants are slow and lumbering, whereas those of their smaller counterparts like mice are fast and agile. And then the professor, Max Donnellan, goes on to say that not only do these findings shed light on, say, how extinct animals might have moved, like large dinosaurs versus smaller dinosaurs, that big dinosaurs might have moved rather slowly because of this nerve transmission speed, and smaller dinosaurs might move faster. It also suggests that that larger animals actually have to have some kind of brain mechanism to think ahead and predict any changes that are going to happen while they're doing some kind of movement, so that they have time to adapt the movement accordingly. And he says that prediction in the nervous system is much like weather prediction. As we all know, predicting the weather a week in advance is much more difficult than predicting what the weather will be like this evening. Longer-term weather prediction requires a much more sophisticated and powerful computer model. Similarly, the relative longer delays in large animals require them to make more sophisticated and powerful calculations with their brains and nervous systems. In this sense, the limit to nerve speed may require large animals to be smarter.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
Although, another way I think of maybe tooling down that system would be to make them dumber.
You think? Why is that?
Slowing down the period of awareness of like what a moment is, you know. Like everything, when I expect my hand to move, it seems to move instantaneously. As soon as I tell it to move, boom, there it is. Now, that could actually be like a delay for the shrew, because I'm traveling a longer distance to send this message through the nerves to enact this action. To me, this seems instantaneous. So perhaps my sort of buffer zone in the brain telling me when this moment is, when now is, when this, I'm immediately doing this. Maybe there's like a slight delay there, right?
Yeah.
A slight buffer, and I'm waiting for the feedback to come back before I'm knowing that there's emotion. Not assuming that you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think there was some research a few months ago. I don't remember when it came out or who did it, but there was something suggesting that we actually are living in I think we're living in the past as opposed to in the present constantly because of the buffer that our brains put into the system, that there actually is like a split-second delay that's built into our system. So what we think is the present is not actually the present.
And maybe it's the same. Maybe that's numerically based on how long it's taking our nerves to collect this information. Because you can imagine, especially if you're a larger creature and there was a large delay, think of something like a very big dinosaur. If you've taken that step and there was any problem with that step where you would need to recalibrate, readjust, make a move, a foothold slips, and now you need to readjust that same foot that you just put down, you'd need to know that information before you enacted your next step or your next motion. So you would actually want there to be a delay in when your decision-making would allow you to make another action. So... yeah, I don't know. I don't know how big of a difference that'll be. I mean, dinosaurs with slower reaction speeds, I mean, they could run, some of them at tremendous speeds.
Right, and once elephants get running, they can run pretty fast as well. So it's not but they're not like, the super fast moves of a mouse or a shrew. Have you ever chased a mouse around a room before? I mean, those suckers move fast. I'm speaking from experience here.
Wow. I can imagine them being very quick. I can imagine also, though, that they, for all we know, they're just very clumsy, but just clumsy quicker, Maybe they're running fast and they just look like a blur, but maybe they're like stumbling half of the way,
Yeah.
I think that's a great marker for sort of figuring out the clock of the human or animal mind of any size.
Yeah.
Is relaying that to the speed of their nerves' ability to communicate that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What you got?
Okay. I got a fairy tale. Start off this week. My first story is going to begin with a fairy tale.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to pretend I'm going to sleep. Ready for my bedtime story.
This is fair. Okay. There was once a fair-minded leader of a free nation who gave the most intelligent and reasonable speeches to his intelligent and reasonable people. A scientist friend of this leader, upset after years of being overlooked on his birthday, decided to cause a bit of mischief by doping the public water supply of the nation with a drug that made the people unintelligent and unreasonable. The leader, who only drank imported bottled water from California and was thus immune from the effects of the doping, tried to restore order. He attempted to maintain the enlightened culture of the past, but after years of attempting this to rule his unintelligent and unreasonable people, the leader found himself cast out and about to be imprisoned when the mad scientist confided in him the nasty trick that he had played on the nation. The leader immediately saw the solution. He ran to the nearest drinking fountain, drank deeply, and was soon reinstated as the people's leader by giving the most unintelligent and unreasonable speeches the people had ever heard. What the leader realized, it's not what you say that counts, it's who you're talking to. Then comes a study from the University of British Columbia that is warning that Western psychology may have been drinking from the doped well for some time now. Over a reliance on research subjects from the U.S. and other Western nations can produce false claims about human psychology and behavior because their psychological tendencies are highly unusual compared to the global population. In fact, the study has labeled us in the Western world as weird.
Weird.
Weird. According to the study, majority of psychological research is conducted on subjects from Western nations, primarily university students. Between 2003 and 2007, 96% of psychological samples came from countries with only 12% of the world's population. The U.S. alone provided nearly 70% of the subjects. So we've become basically the control subjects for normal psychology. However, the study finds significant psychological and behavioral differences between what the researchers in the Western educated, industrialized, rich, and, well, here's where we get weird from. We are Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic.
I get it.
It's weird. And the other societies aren't weird, although they wish they were in many cases. Counterparts across the spectrum, key areas including visual perception, fairness, spatial and moral reasoning, memory, and conformity all differed. These findings are going to be published in the journal Nature and in Behavioral Sciences. This is raising questions about the practice of drawing universal claims about human psychology and behavior based on the fact that all the research samples come from weird societies.
Yeah, so it's biased, basically. I like the weird acronym.
It's heavily biased, and I guess, yeah, there is a sort of, there's two schools of thought on this then that come to mind. One is, do we really believe we're delving into human psychology, or are we honing a sort of a mechanism for adjusting just to our Western society? And I think we are doing that. I mean,
yeah,
nobody's going to their therapist trying to figure out how to be a better bush hunter. It's not.
Yeah. The problems of Western society are not the problems of so many non-industrialized nations and other countries around there. I mean, yeah, the things that we worry about, it's like, I can't get to a gas station. Maybe is my car going to run out of gas? Or is the babysitter going to be there? Or, I don't know. A lot of the issues are not the same.
The issues aren't the same, and it's from this from what I'm reading here. It's the conditions, the maladjustments, or the well-adjusted. Like there's not a lot of universals.
Yeah,
and what we consider to be universals, what we find to be common or identifiable.
We find these truths to be self-evident.
You can slap a number on somebody's behavioral, mode.
Yeah.
Here, but none of this seems to apply to the rest of the world. So if you're a Western civilized country member person, you're weird.
You're weird.
We're all weird.
Let's take
It's not
that.
just you.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
And wear
It's
the
all-
weirdness with a badge of pride.
Yeah.
That's right. We're also older than we thought. This story was sent in by Gordon McLeod, who he sent in a barrage of stories this morning. I did only pick one of the stories. This one has been around the block a little bit, but multicellular life probably started about 1.5 billion years before we originally thought. Some researchers at the Swedish Museum of Natural History in Stockholm, they published a paper in Nature. They have found these big fossils, macrofossils that, I mean, the media has been describing them as looking like cookies. I don't know what kind of cookies they look like, and I don't think they taste like cookies, but they didn't even really know that they had found something when they had found it. But they did some tests, and it came back showing molecular signs and the structure of living organisms, of multicellular living organisms. So the study author Abdezarak El Albani says the complex structure shown by the fossil remains show signs of communication between the cells. So it wasn't, because of those signs that they found, the molecular signals and the molecular signatures and the structure of the whole thing, the fact that the cells would be communicating as a whole would mean that they're not just a group of one unicellular organisms living in the same place. They're not just like some mass of cells that just happen to be hanging out in the same place, but they're actually a single organism. So the organic material that they found was from Gabon in Africa, and it dates back to 2.1 billion years ago. The scientists say these are the oldest multicellular organisms ever found, and the date takes them back before the Cambrian explosion of 500 million years ago that we believe made multiple multicellular life widespread all around the Earth. So a single fossil find, well, not a single, but a few fossils found, and suddenly we're a little bit older. And life actually got its start very shortly after the Earth actually got formed.
Well, what are we? We got like 4 billion. Yeah, we had the planet was a couple billion years ahead of,
Yeah, but I mean, as opposed
think
to
of where we'd be if we'd gotten there another billion years early.
I know, but might have been destroyed.
So much we could have done.
Well, we probably would have been destroyed by asteroids, but
Yeah,
that's another issue. If you just tuned in, you're listening to This Week in Science with Dr. Kiki and Justin Jackson. Got more stories?
So, yeah, this is actually a fantastic crumpled piece of paper I have here.
Crumple.
Yeah, crumple. So this is from the University of this is on the University of Michigan State University's website right now. Just about everyone agrees that sustainability is an important thing. We've talked about this many times on this show about getting green, going green for the to cease the global warming, to cease polluting our world, that sort of thing. But the researcher here, Michael Nelson, has put into a paper, a Journal of Bioscience, titled "Sustainability: Virtuous or Vulgar?" Specifically, he, along with co-author John Vucetich of Michigan Technology University, are arguing that the issue of ethics is a vital component of this, they say, in teaching the research of sustainability to students is lacking. This debate, they write, has almost entirely neglected a fundamental dimension of sustainability, the ethical dimension. lack of attention to the ethical dimension of sustainability is stifling progress toward sustainability. Or as Nelson is putting it here, if we don't know where we're going, we won't know when we get there.
True.
Do you think the ethics of sustainability? I still don't understand what he's talking about there. But Nelson said that from the educational perspective, it's important that all aspects of sustainability are being covered. So I guess he's talking specifically about how they're teaching sustainability in the classroom, and stating that everything we do sends messages to our students.
Yeah.
We see our students as people, which is nice. People who will go out and do important things in this world.
Yes.
It's important that we nurture that, or how we nurture that. So the ultimate question the author says is, do we care about ecosystem health because ecosystems are intrinsically valuable? Which, if you believe in the ecosystem is intrinsically valuable and that we should be preserving the natural ecosystems of the world, then you would, as a nature lover, move to the most urbanized neighborhood you could find and never go on any more nature walks, because every time you do, you ruin some of nature, and every time you live close to nature, you ruin some of nature. So if you truly believe that the ecosystem's intrinsically valuable, you will go to the most urbanized concrete jungle you can find and spend the rest of your days there. Or
that's a little
or do
extreme.
we care about
Yeah, go ahead.
Or do we care about ecosystem health because it serves the human interest? So then it's we want to preserve it because of what we're getting out of it. It's the idea of the sustainable forests. We don't want to not cut down trees. We want to continue to cut down trees. And to be able to continue to cut down the trees, we have to have a system where we're planting enough of them so that we can keep cutting them down. So those are sort of the two. That's sort of the question he's posing.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere probably in the middle of that. I mean, you take it to the extreme and it's like, well, if it's all about the ecosystem, what are we even doing here? What is our place on the earth? Why we should just, kill ourselves. We don't even, that's taking ourselves out of the equation of being in an ecosystem, part of the Earth's entire ecosystem. But then you move to the idea of, that we are like completely a part of it, and should we manage it? I don't know that we should manage every aspect of it. Maybe somewhere right in the middle where we have some areas that we plant trees and cut trees down, some areas that we leave alone, allow everything to kind of run its course. I don't know.
So, okay, in this paper, Nelson and Vucetich consider the most widely appreciated definitions of sustainability, which they indicate are roughly that sustainability would mean meeting human needs in a socially just manner without depriving ecosystems of their health.
That's what I said.
Is that a definition, though? That's okay, because then you got to figure out what is socially just. What's just? The word justice is a meaningless word, so socially just is equally meaningless, I think. And what is health in a ecosystem? That can be very debatable. So while this seems specific, it could mean anything. And I love these two sort of, it's sort of like the first definitions he gives, but I like these ones a little more. Exploit as much as desired without infringing on the future availability to exploit as much as desired. I
like that.
I like that one.
I like that. Can I put that on a bumper sticker? Exploit as much as desired without what?
Exploit as much as desired without infringing on the future ability to exploit as much as desired. That's where I come from on the whole energy thing. I don't want to not use energy. I want to use as much as possible. Leave all the lights on and then be able to do it continually and sustainably.
Right.
Or the other one is to exploit as little as necessary to maintain a meaningful life, which I think is a completely flawed theory or way to try to do it. Because as soon as you're exploiting as little as necessary, you just free up the rest of the resources for somebody who will exploit it, and you'll grow business and you'll create more demand for exploiting things. So
yeah, you're probably right there. We talked about that a little bit on the last show. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that's why this one caught me. The crisis results from not knowing what we mean by evaluating terms like ecosystem health and human need. Yeah, those are two things going to be impossible to define forever.
Well, they're completely subjective.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what is ecosystem health in one area or human needs in another area. I mean, not everybody has on this planet believes the same thing in those cases.
Right. So the real crux of the environmental movement will be is ecosystem health defined by its ability to meet human needs, or is the ecosystem health defined does that define the limits of our needs? Is saying that, you know, we can exploit up to a point where it's encroaching on the environment and then we have to just completely back off. If there's some sort of a ground frog that's living in an area, does that mean we can no longer farm there? Or do we farm there because, you know, ground frogs not enough and we want to be able to exploit the resources? So there's a lot of those questions that come up. The thing that I found most discouraging about the green movement is when it's corporatized. It seems to be not even green anymore, but it seems to be just a new product, a new packaging. And granted, it's good to have the movement into packages that are going to decompose quicker, use less landfill space, but nothing that's actually going to not very much out there that's going to positively impact the environmental side. On the other side, the true environmentalists who are looking not so much for sustainability, but sort of just a pure earth movement sort of a thing, seem to have avoided science completely all of their lives to come to the conclusion that there's a way to go green. So I don't know. I think both sides are kind of somewhere in the middle. They do need to figure out what is the sustainable, what is going to be the right course. Because if we don't really come to a consensus on what we're trying to do with the green movement, with these new technologies, it'll be pretty easy for us to get divided. I think I always see
lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. Oh, you can't put in that wind farm or that solar farm there because, you know, you might, you know, get in the way of whatever. I mean, everything ends up NIMBY.
I'm still trying to figure out how the conservatives, like the Republican Party largely, but the conservative party, which used to be such a party of hunters and fishers that really wanted to have large amounts of the wildlife preserved, how they got convinced that the green movement was a liberal thing. Because it was a conservative thing first for a really, really long time. It was a core conservative issue, and how that got flipped on them.
I don't know.
It's unfortunate.
They don't like what patchouli smells like. I don't know.
See, yeah, exactly. It's like the marijuana hippies versus how did the pot smoking hippies get to define that the environmentalist side? I still don't understand it because they're not the most environmentally friendly people. No,
not always. Let's move forward. What you drink might give you away if you're trying to hide from somebody. A study that was put out by the American Chemical Society's Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry took a look at different hydrogen and oxygen atoms from water and beverages containing water in different cities, 33 different cities to be exact. So bottled water, soda pop, and beer looked at the patterns of isotopes for the hydrogen and the oxygen atoms and found that they could actually pinpoint specific chemical signatures to the city or region that the beverages came from. Because normally beverage manufacturers use water from local or regional sources so that it's not, they have a local or regional manufacturing plant that then sends out to a small area of cities as opposed to shipping all over the place, because that's a lot of heavy stuff to ship all over the place. So anyway, what they're extrapolating this to is that if a person were to travel across the country and drink beverages, say in a beer in every city they stopped in, there might be a signature in their hair or in their fingernails or in in their skin that would be able to help people find out where they had been and when. So they're thinking that it might help trace the origin of drinks, in one place, or help criminal investigators identify the geographic travels of crime suspects and other individuals through the analysis of just hair strands.
Wow.
Yeah. So not anymore. It's not just, we know what drugs you've taken. It's also, we know where you drank water. It's good. It's good.
Her every movement is trackable. Well,
That's
luckily
right.
I don't have anything to hide.
Nothing at all. Have we been going about a half hour? Is it about time for the break?
No, we've been going about 10 minutes.
Oh, you're silly.
Oh, no, we've been going like for 45 minutes.
40 minutes. That's right. Well, I think it's about time to take a break. So let's take a really brief break. We're going to play some a little mixer music here for a second, and then we'll be right back. So stay tuned for more This Week in Science.
You go pee. I'll be right back.
Okay.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. This week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, science, science. This Week in 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 Science.
Wait for it.
People once thought the sun turned round the earth. The motions of the planets were too cryptic. Copernicus caught on, we turn around the sun. So now the planet's orbits are elliptic. We go
Roundy, round, roundy, round, roundy, roundy, round, roundy, round, roundy, roundy, round, roundy, round, roundy, round. And we're back. This is This Week in Science. I'm Dr. Kiki.
And I am Justin. Hey, who's that music we just heard?
Monty Harper.
Monty Harper.
Yes.
Monty Harper sent me some CDs a while back.
Yeah, Monty Harper
Aside from
is
that one, he has
awesome.
quite a good collection of sort of sciencey, educational-ish children's songs that he's put together.
Yeah.
One of my favorites being "Take Me to Your Library," story of an alien coming to Earth and demanding to be taken to our library.
Gosh, I love
Pretty
it.
cute.
I haven't heard that one. I'll have to hear it. That sounds great. Yeah, love Monty. Monty is on the 2010 Twis Science Music compilation and the 2009 Science Music compilation. Roundy Round was the first song he submitted, and then this year it's a song about wheat and DNA and seed banks and stuff.
Do I have that complete? I don't think I have that CD yet.
Oh, you do. I'm sure I brought you a copy.
Oh, I never got one.
Liar.
I know. I'm not lying. I never, ever got one.
Maybe it was you didn't observe it, and so it decided that it didn't want to be there. Something quantum. Something quantum.
It.
I don't know. Maybe there's some quantum weirdness going
I
on.
think you said deserve it.
No, observe it. If you
I believe
didn't
that
observe it, it's not, it could have been there or not there.
If things don't exist that I don't observe, then I am living in a very sparse universe.
Yeah.
Very few things that jumble it up.
That's right. So I've got a quick story that I was going to try and get into the first half, but didn't happen. So I'm going to try and squeeze it into this second half, and then maybe we'll push something out at the end. I don't know, bump something. But this quantum story sent in by Dark Passenger, you had the story that from the first half of the show that was kind of tied to things we talked about on the last show in terms of green and economics and stuff. Well, last show we talked about quantum entanglement in DNA. So Dark Passenger sent a story to me that was published in Nature, and there's some Dartmouth researchers who are funded by NSF who they didn't set out to demonstrate anything this, I guess, changing of the way that we understand the connection between the quantum world and the macro world. So like we said before, the macro world and the quantum world, we don't know exactly how they connect and how quantum effects can actually change things on the macro scale. And so they didn't set out to figure much of anything out, but they put together this experiment where they took some tiny semiconductor piezoelectric crystals similar to a computer chip, about 3 millimeters each, and they deposited gold electrical gates on them running over the crystal, leaving a tiny break of only about a few hundred micrometers in the middle of the chip. And that break is the quantum point contact, or QPC. So they hook the chip up to an electrical circuit, and then electrons flow through the circuit and through the metal contacts until they hit this QPC, the quantum point contact. And that is where the magic happened. So the researcher, Alex Rimberg, he's a professor of physics at Dartmouth College, he says you can think of the QPC as a tunnel barrier, sort of a wall for electrons. When the wall is sufficiently high, the electrons don't have enough energy to go over it. If electrons were classical objects, I mean, he means this classical model of physics, that would be the end of the story. But since electrons obey the laws of quantum mechanics, instead of going over the barrier, they can also quantum tunnel through it. So when the electrons in the current got close to the QPC, each electron in the stream at random, because they're quantum, they either do it or they don't, at random, they choose to either bounce off the barrier, the QPC barrier, or tunnel through it. And so that randomness introduces noise into the current caused by random fluctuations in the number of electrons that go through any time. And so because this noise is generated quantum mechanically, it's sometimes referred to as quantum noise. Now, he goes on to say the three-dimensional vibration of a resonator crystal is exactly like the vibration you get if you strike a tuning fork, and the tuning fork starts to hum with a musical note. And there's a kind of vibrational pattern determined by its geometry that the atoms in the wine glass collectively take up. So In the same way, the electrons bouncing off the QPC apply a random back action force to the crystal. And so in this case, the back action force vibrates the crystal. So those electrons that choose not to tunnel through the crystal but to bounce off of it, if enough of them do that, they actually start the crystal vibrating. And so they calculated that based on the quantum noise in the current, the number of electrons, the random fluctuation is on the order of about 10,000 electrons or so on either side of the QPC. And what this basically comes down to, it's amazing. So this is what another researcher said. The remarkable thing is that only 10,000 or so electrons are able to make all 100 quintillion atoms in the crystal move at once. So 10,000 electrons make 100 quintillion atoms move all at the same time, vibrating in synchrony. The difference in size between the two parts of the system is extreme. To give a sense of perspective, imagine that the 10,000 electrons correspond to something small, like a flea. And to complete the analogy, the crystal would have to be the size of Mount Everest. And so if you imagine the flea jumping on Mount Everest to make it move, and the vibrations would be of the mountain would be on the order of meters. Like, it's just amazing. They didn't even set out to measure anything like this at all. This is not what they set out to demonstrate. But here they're actually showing that a very, very small number of electrons can have this very massive effect on the macroscopic world. It's just cool. I just love the idea of a flea jumping on the mountain and making the mountain vibrate. Easy.
Yeah, the thing about that is that there's no, what I understand of the kooky world of physics, there is no such thing even as an individual electron.
Right.
That they kind of do come in these giant packs. And I don't know. It seems like, I don't know. I like this study. I need to read this because this is actually pretty exciting, fun experiment. Really.
Yeah, and it seems like it wasn't a really, in terms of complexity, or it wasn't a huge experiment. It was something in their laboratory. They were able to put it together, and this is what came out of it. So hopefully it'll be easily repeatable.
Some of the most profoundly stimulating quantum experiments are, in its essence, in terms of the technology they're using, way even more basic and simple than this.
Yeah.
The great example is that double slit test.
Right.
Which is just, a sub-millimeter thickness of slots put into regular film, and putting a light behind it can show you on the wall behind it how kooky things are going on in quantum level with photons and electrons, and actually running in packs and assembling themselves in pattern. You can actually sort of see that things are spooky at a very, very near distance, not even far away. Just right here. They can get spooky right away.
Yep. Give me more science, dude.
Oh, this story is kind of boring.
After that, it's so hard.
The greatest. Our next story is rather uninteresting and kind of boring. And yet it's my job to sit here and read it to you as though it were very exciting.
Do it.
Worldwide survey of more than 136,000 people in 132 countries included questions about happiness and income. Results reveal that while life satisfaction usually rises with income, positive feelings don't necessarily follow. So this is a Gallup World Poll that's appearing sometime this month in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. There's so many journals out there. You think they could ever consolidate them into one big book of the Journal of Science or something? Well, I guess there's already a journal called Science. You couldn't call it that. Some of these are just so specific, though. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. So they did the survey represented about 96% of the world's population. Not everybody was asked questions, but the representative sample was about 96% of us. That's a pretty astounding astounding scale. It's the first study to check happiness, and it seems that, what they found, which kind of makes sense, everybody has been looking at life satisfaction and income. While it's true that getting richer will make you more satisfied with your life, it may not have the big impact we thought on enjoying life. So, here's the story on it. I think I probably picked out this entire story just so I could say that same thing I've said like 100 times on the show.
Yeah.
Money cannot buy you happiness.
No.
But it pays off misery like nothing else can.
Yeah. I can't argue with you on that one. I mean, if you can't afford basic needs, you're going to be kind of miserable, and it's going to be very difficult to be happy if you're constantly struggling and worrying about, where your next meal is going to come from. Things like that are very difficult.
Things like that are very difficult. But then what happens is all your problems get scaled through your environment, so that you would, like, if you were driving a car that had that was a manual shifting roll-up windows. You had to put the key in the lock every time you unlocked it. You might be a little bit sad every time you got into that car, right?
A little sad. No.
And comparatively to, time-wise earlier on in technology or to other nations of the world, you got it pretty good. I don't care how poor you are in America, chances are you still have an air conditioner. Chances are you still have indoor lighting. And put it into contrast to the greatest emperor of Rome. Lived in a cold, damp, drafty place where they had to burn, they had to have oil lamps going with that burning smell all the time. Just they had light at night. There was no refrigerators, so they were lucky enough probably to get some perishable goods. But, you can just walk down to the fridge and open yourself up a nice cold.
Yeah.
So we all live like kings, people. We should all be enjoying this. This is utopia we live in.
Hear, hear.
Lights on. Cold
Hear,
beer
hear.
What else could you ask for out of life?
Not much more. I'm doing all right. And you've got the happiness of children who you get to take to the dentist.
Ah, yes, my little vampires.
That's right. So, do your kids hate the dentist because of the drills? All that drilling.
My daughter has figured she's been once for them to like look at her teeth. I don't even think they cleaned them. I think there's just one to make sure they were all there and coming in, right?
Oh, you've got 3. That's nice.
But somehow they pick it up. Somehow the other kids on the playground talk. She knows about the drill. She knows that she has to brush her teeth, otherwise she gets drilled. It's like her big fear. Like,
That's right.
I have to brush my teeth or they'll get the drill.
They'll get the drill. Well, pretty soon your children and you might not have to worry about the drill anymore, which is kind of exciting. Another chemistry study.
Revolutionizing dentistry?
Yeah, revolutionizing the dental field. So some French researchers have Nadia Benkeren-Jessel and her colleagues have been looking at the whole root canal procedure. And the root canal is pretty awful. They drill into the tooth and they drill out the root pulp and they, take your tooth out, but they don't take out the whole tooth, because if they take the whole tooth, then like your jaw will deteriorate or something. So, they have this whole just process that's really medieval, actually, when you think about it. But it could be ameliorated if the dentist could actually heal the pulp inside of the tooth, because part of the problem is the cavity gets into the tooth, and then the pulp becomes inflamed because it's open to more things. So if they could actually heal or get rid of the inflammation in the pulp inside that diseased tooth that contains the nerves, and then use other things to cover it up, they could potentially save the entire tooth and never have to drill. So what they've developed is a multi-layered nano-sized film, 1/50,000th the thickness of a human hair. So you look at your human hair, and if you could cut it in 50,000 pieces, along its length. That's how thick it would be. It contains a substance that's called alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, or alpha MSH, and it happens to have anti-inflammatory properties. And the scientists showed in laboratory tests that when it was combined with a polymer, it produced a material that fought inflammation in dental pulp fibroblasts. And fibroblasts are, basically they're like skin cells, but they're a type of cell that also exists in the dental pulp. And so when they put those films on these dental test teeth, it increased the number of fibroblasts after getting rid of the inflammation. And so they think it could actually help revitalize teeth and the need for root canals and even other issues with cavities. But Nadia, the researchers, is good to say it's not like toothpaste. She says, here we are really trying to control cavities after they develop. So you still have to brush your teeth.
Otherwise, you don't have any work.
Yeah.
All right. I just ran a quick experiment, and I can actually show the TWiT Live listeners why I'm really hoping this works, or that they can come up with grow your own teeth, because I can't have false teeth, and the reason is I've got this bone in the roof of my mouth, which I'm going to show you all right now.
No.
Are you ready?
No.
Yeah. This is pretty awesome. This is real. This is real science. I'm gonna.
I don't know what. Oh, you do.
Uh-huh.
What is that? Your hard palate.
And I might have a couple cavities back there. I never put a camera in.
Do you think that's your twin? That's I swear, that's your undeveloped twin.
It's some sort of bone ridge, and every dentist has ever seen it's gone like, whoa, you better take care of those teeth, because we'll never be able to get one of them things in there. So that's why I brush my teeth and do the peroxide mouthwash.
If you brush your teeth, you clean it all out, then you don't have to go to the dentist and have them be like, whoa.
They straight told me, if you lose these ones, you're done.
Wow.
We won't be able to help you.
Wow. That's interesting.
'Cause they make all those things those the big rubbery, toothy looking gummy thing that they stick, and it goes up on the roof of your mouth, and that kind of how it fixes up there, and it won't fit.
Oh my gosh. If
you want to see it again?
No, that was good. I think you I think you scared everybody who's watching the show. That was awesome live video. That was awesome. Do you have any more stories?
I don't have one handy.
Well, I have one more that was kind of fun. What do you do when your 13-year-old is climbing the walls?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean really climbing them. Monkey sent in this link, and a 13-year-old kid in the UK, he built he made himself Spider-Man. We're using two 15 pound, so I guess about $20 vacuum cleaners and some flat panels, and he built himself a little wall climbing rig that just uses vacuum suction to stick himself to the wall and climb he can go sideways, he can climb up the wall. His mom tries to keep him off the walls inside the house. So he gets to play outside with his wall climbing gear. But I think it's just a really neat, I'm sure he's not the first one to have done this, but 13 years old, building his own Spider-Man kit and being able to climb up the walls at school I think it's pretty awesome. He's a thief in training. Museums beware. Yeah. You better watch out for your kid, Justin. He might get into stuff like that.
I think I've already figured out that my sweet child is going to probably not be the most. I don't know. He might become an athlete. Probably not.
But he might climbing walls. He might build himself a little Spider-Man rig.
Actually, he already is. They take out that rock climbing wall at the downtown at the, what do you call it, the farmer's market.
Mm-hmm.
And this probably won't work at all. No, that won't work at all.
No.
But he tried it a couple times. He just turned 7. He's tried it a couple times in the past. Got part of the way up and had to come back down again. And was just so determined. Like every time we go there, like, I want to go up the wall. I'm like, okay. So the last couple weeks ago, he made it up the wall. He made it all the way up the wall, and they had a little buzzer, and he pushed the button, and it buzzed, and he came down. He was so proud, eyes beaming and everything. Went back up, did it a couple more times that day, and then we went to Rocknasium here in town and climbed that wall for a little while. And he may actually, that might be something he's into.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that kid will scale his invention for his growth, and that as he gets bigger, he'll probably need bigger vacuums. But anyway, good job on the 13-year-old kid for building his own Spider-Man outfit.
That's totally awesome.
Awesome. Physics addicts out there should take a look at a website. It's a new Stack Overflow community site for physics. Says Nick Gotch, a place for students, hobbyists, and researchers to exchange knowledge both at the beginner level and advanced. And the website is area51.stackexchange.com /proposals/1908/physics. And I'm going to put it into the chat room here, and then when our new website is up, we'll put it in the new website. And happy 4th of July, everybody. It's almost here, or if you're listening to this on the radio or as a podcast, it's probably already over. But even if you aren't listening or watching this in the U.S., it's still, like Canada Day, 4th of July, Bastille Day. All of these days are a day to reflect on your country wherever you are and try to learn from past mistakes and not ever have a rainbow sky on the 4th of July. And I will also put a link out that somebody sent an NPR link with an amazing video of our experiments blowing up hydrogen bombs in the atmosphere of our planet. And it's not something, you watch it on the video, but it's not something you ever want to see because that's just bad news. So on next week's show, we're really sorry Allie couldn't join us this week. She lost her voice today, randomly. Gone. And we hope that Allie's voice will get better by next week and that she'll be able to be here to give us her excellent Twis Decade in Review for epigenetics. I've read it, and it looks really good. She's done some great research for us.
She's done a couple of good ones so far, so I'm very excited. I thought we were going to get to hear it tonight.
I know. No, she said,
next week.
Yeah, next week. Next week we'll get it. Remember to check out The Weather Makers by Tim Flannery, the Twis Book Club of the Book of the Month. And you can go to twisbookclub.ning.com to get involved with that. Weather Makers by Tim Flannery. And shout outs to everyone who sent in story ideas and comments. You know we love you.
Thanks everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Twist is available via podcast. Is it still? We've been having problems with our interwebs.
It is.
It's up. Okay, so you can go to our website, www.twist.org. Click on subscribe to the Twist Science Podcast, or you can just Google us in iTunes and get our show from there.
Yeah, and for more information on anything that you've heard here today, show notes are going to be available on our website. Allie said she was going to take down show notes for us this week, and those are available at www.twist.org. And we do want to hear from you, so email us if you have the inclination at Kirsten or Justin at thisweekinscience.com.
Be sure to put Twist somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also get us on the on Twitter at Dr. Kiki or at Jacksonfly, and I've got a Facebook site. That's my personal webpage that you're personally invited to come hang out at. Kirsten has one too, but you can't go to that one. She's got a fan site set aside.
You can go to it. You can go to the fan site. Go to
the fan site. You can go there.
Yeah, go to the fan site. Anyway, we're going to be here next week, and we hope that you will join us again for more great science news.
And if you have learned anything from today's show, remember,
it's all in your head. I can't believe. Did I never know that? I can't believe. I don't think I've ever. I really don't think I've ever seen that before. I've known you for years.
You did want to see it again.
No, I don't. But that was wow.
It's literally like the size of a knuckle and finger coming down. It's like that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. Wow. M. Basdell. I am a PhD, not an MD. Wow, that was a good show. That was fun.
Yeah, they usually are.
Yeah, I don't know what made it different this week.
Somebody says it's my Taurus Tyrannosaurus. Wait, what is it?
Taurus palatinus.
Oh, my Taurus palatinus.
Your palate.
Yeah.
Your the hard palate, and you have the hard palate, and then the soft palate behind it. So,
Or my twin brother's skull.
I think I know. I kind of like that. Oh my goodness!
A little frightening.
Frightening.